Welcome to this afternoon's special call meeting of the Muskogee City Council on March 3rd, 2015. It is a few minutes after 4 o'clock. We will now consider the roll call.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Present.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Janie Boydston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Leanne Langston. Ivory Van. Derek Reed.
Here.
Okay, we will now look at the minutes of the City Council regular session of February 9, special call on February 17. Is there additions or corrections to those minutes?
Move for approval.
In a motion and a second, any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. We'll now consider the consent agendas or anything on the consent items 1 through 12 that we want to move to regular agenda. If not, I'll entertain a motion on consent.
Move for approval.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston. Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries on consent. We'll now go to regular agenda item number 13.
Mayor,
Yes.
I think there's some technical difficulty with getting the slideshow on item 13. Might we move to 14 to allow a little more time
Do
to
we need a motion to do that or just move to 14?
motion to handle item 14 prior to 13?
Okay, I'd entertain that motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item 14.
Receive report from the Greater Muskogee Area Chamber of Commerce as to the financial condition, project status, and progress towards achieving goals and objectives of promoting and soliciting convention and tourism activities and business for the city of Muskogee and taking a necessary action.
Mr. Brown.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, council members. As you know, every year, well, it depends on which external agency we deal with. They're required to make a report and provide an update to the city council, and what the chamber is here to do is present their report for your review. And I think Ms. Treasurer McKenzie or Anita is here to give a presentation. Thank you very much. Approach the podium. Thanks.
Hi,
How are
I'm
you?
Anita Bucciarelli. I'm the tourism director with the Chamber, and I'm here to talk to you today about the contract that you have with the Chamber to execute the tourism program. Can we adjust that at all, Gary? Not really? Okay. Well, can you guys see this all on your screen? Okay.
Yes.
Well, the mayor sent me 6 questions and asked that those questions be specifically addressed. So I've organized my presentation by the questions that you see there. So we'll talk about the definition of the contract, the scope of the contract, and how we fulfill that scope. We'll talk about the tools that we have in place to measure our progress. And then we will talk about the performance based on our budget. And then the last couple of questions about what the hurdles are that we experience in trying to fulfill the contract. And if we had a larger budget, what could we do and how much would it take to do it? We're going to kind of rush through the first part because I think this will be repetition for a lot of you. I hesitate to leave any of it out, though, because the scope of our project is huge. The scope of the contract is huge. The tourism program itself and the execution of it is huge. So I don't want to leave any of it out, but don't think that I'm trying to skirt anything as we run through this, because you'll all have copies of this presentation that we'll get to you. And, of course, you get a report every month now at your council seat, so you can see on a month-by-month basis what we do. But per the contract, we are to provide qualified and competent staff. We are to promote Muskogee as a tourism destination, to solicit conventions and tourism business, to provide management and admin services, to disseminate information, to assist in the development and promotion of local activities and attractions. And then we'll just run through some slides. This is our competent staff listed here. And I think all of you know, most all of us, you might not be familiar with Mia. She's our newest employee. And in my eyes, she's nothing short of a creative genius. We have hit the jackpot with Mia Trout. And we all wonder how we operated before she came. then this is just sort of the basics of a lot of the things that we do. The tourism budget only directly supports 2 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. But when you contract with the chamber, you get the entire chamber staff. All of us answer tourism phone calls. All of us answer tourism emails. We are all involved in mailing visitor and relocation packets and talking to people about coming to Muskogee and all of those sorts of things. So you get more than just the 3 full-time employees. The direct language of the contract provides our mission, and that is to develop, promote, foster, and otherwise advertise the city of Muskogee as a tourist and convention destination. Now, why is that an important mission? It's very important because tourism is a viable economic engine for Muskogee. And we talk economic development all the time. Tourism is a grassroots kind of thing. You can't get any more simple in economic development than tourism, because what we do is entice people to come to Muskogee, to pay their hotel motel taxes when they stay at one of our lodging facilities, to pay their sales taxes when they go out to eat or when they shop here, and leave that money with us and then go home. So we don't have to provide infrastructure for them. We don't have to worry about their streets and their sewers and their schools and all of that sort of thing. They leave their money with us, and we get to use it for Muskogee's benefit. And another thing that we need to remember is that even business projects, even business prospects, even people who are coming to Muskogee to consider a retail operation or a manufacturing operation, they come first as a visitor. And that's why tourism is extremely important. And that's why it's important that each one of us and each one of you here today get the importance of tourism. We have to provide people with a Muskogee experience that they will never forget. But we want them to remember in a good way. So we need to learn how to be special to everybody who comes to town. If you're in a restaurant and you see somebody that you don't know, give them at least a smile and welcome them. Tourism is important, and it's important because of money and the money that it gives us. So how do we accomplish our mission? This is the part that we're going to kind of run through because I think it will be repetition. We're, of course, by the contract, we're guided by a tourism committee. Al Stevens is our chair. Mayor Coburn serves on our tourism committee. Councilman Gully serves on it. Councilman Coleman serves on our committee as well. So the council is very involved in what we do, both in the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce and directly in our tourism committee, too. The tourism's funds are completely separate from the Chamber's funds. We have a separate bank account. We have a separate accounting system. We have a separate audit each year by an external auditor. And, of course, you get all those reports once a year. And then, as I mentioned earlier, each of you now get a written report at your council seat so that you can see what went on at the tourism meeting and how things are progressing. And we also provide the financials to the city treasurer each month. And then, because those hotel motel taxes are public tax dollars, we abide by the Open Meeting Act, of course. And we, as the tourism contract people, we don't just promote chamber members. We promote all tourism-related businesses in Muskogee. And, of course, one of the ways that we do that is through print advertising, and you get a sampling of the current month's ads in your packet each month at your seat. But we'll just run through a couple here. This is our ad that was in the Hotel Guest Guide, the Tulsa Guide, also in the Oklahoma State Travel Guide this year. This is what was in the Oklahoma Outdoor Guide for 2015. And you'll see there the Bassmaster and the Major League Fishing logos on there. That stands out to anglers when they see that. And then, of course, we create all kinds of brochures and maps, that, as well as our printed activities guide that you got a copy of, which goes into all of our goodie bags that go to everybody we can find to give one to when they come to Muskogee. We print 70,000 of those activities guides each year. And we're contracted with a company called Certified Folder, and they put them in hotel lobbies and other public use areas all across the state. I stuffed the rack full at the fairgrounds in Oklahoma City when I was there at the bike show last month, so we're represented at Oklahoma City right now, too, very well. And then we also have a contract with the Oklahoma Tourism and Recreation Department, as well as Green Country Marketing, to distribute our activities guides at regional and national trade shows. And then we exhibit ourselves. We do the Boat Sport and Travel Show, as well as the Home and Garden Show in Tulsa, the Muskogee Home and Garden Show. We just did the Oklahoma City Bike Show last month. We'll do the Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue in Fayetteville again this year. And then next year, we'll expand to a couple of outdoor shows, one in Tulsa and one in Fort Smith, to catch that fishing market. And then we want to do a motorcycle show in Dallas as well. And these are just some examples of some of the things that we produce. Our attractions map. Whoop, I went too fast. Our attractions map. Now I'm going the wrong way. Our attractions map and our Muskogee rhythms, the guitars that you see all over town, and then that's the copy of our activities guide. And then these are just some of the brochures that we do, the convention brochure, the museums, the Black Towns Tour, the meeting planner's guide, and the motorcycle ride guide. And then, of course, we have our promotional items. You got one of the stickers today. We have our lapel pins and the guitar picks. This year, we're going to do something for anglers, something for bikers, and we're also going to have hotel key cards printed that our hotels will use. Because, you know, like when you check in somewhere in a larger city and you get the key card and it has an advertisement on the back, that's going to advertise Muskogee and our website and our community calendar on the back of the key cards. And these are really good conversation pieces, especially when you're at a trade show. Somebody will come up and say, well, why do you do guitar picks? Well, we do guitar picks because we have the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame. And so it's a really great tie-in, so it gives us a talking point, some way to open up a conversation about our attractions. We maintain the tourism website, visitmuskogee.com, and also our online community calendar. And then our social media is going crazy this year. We decided it would be best to start a separate Facebook page for our tourism projects. So we have the Visit Muskogee Facebook page now, and we're also, we have a Twitter account. We're beginning with Instagram and Pinterest as well. And this was one of our recent posts, just advertising the upcoming ride season for bikers. We utilize the chamber office as a downtown visitor center, of course, and we have a visitor tracking system. And then you're familiar with our Tourist Information Center, and our SVP provides us with volunteers to staff that center. We replaced the heating and air conditioning out there last year so that it can be run year-round now. And then the wayfinding signage. Treasure has been the developer, really, of putting all everyone's ideas together that came out of the committee meetings, and she's put all that together, and we're providing $60,000 from the tourism budget, and then $10,000 annually will be in our budget for the maintenance of that signage. And then we have the little 24-hour kiosks where our activities guides are placed all over town, and we replenish those on a monthly basis. And this is a very exciting thing that I'd love to spend a lot of time on, but I want to get to the money and our performance, so we're not going to spend much time on it today. But we talked with them this morning. We had a conference call about developing content. The 2 kiosks have been ordered. One will be in the new Quick Trip. The other one will be at the at Arrowhead Mall. And we're working on all that. It'll be early May when those roll out, and you will be impressed. It's going to be great. And then, of course, we solicit convention and tourism business. This is a list of some of the events and conventions and group gatherings that we were able to bring to Muskogee last year. These are the things that are coming this year that we've already contracted with that haven't happened yet. We'll have the Oklahoma High School Bass Fishing Championship, the State Big Six qualifying tournament, and then, of course, the Jefferson Highway Centennial and celebration that all of you are aware of, I'm sure. And we have also contracted with the Gold Wing Road Riders Association to have their conventions here in both 16 and 17. And then we have, of course, our Community Pride Program, and Genuine Strength of Character is the tagline that we use with Real Okie, because we think that's what it means to be a Real Okie, is that you have genuine strength of character. That's what sets us apart, and that's what we like to promote. And you're familiar with all of our Real Okie stuff by now, that it's everywhere, and that's the goal. These are our new internal billboards around town that I'm sure you've seen. Those are to familiarize our locals with our Real Okie campaign and what it means and who's associated with it. And then we have our Real Okie merchandise line. That's Chris Tucker wearing a shirt. I'm not sure where he was. He got that when he came to Muskogee. And somebody, I think, got that off his Facebook page? And then we have our license plates, and we have keychains, and we have all that kind of stuff that gets our name out. And it literally is around the world now. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Real Okie Pride training, and we won't spend much time on this today other than to say that we're developing an online classroom. So you're going to see those numbers of people being trained, we hope, as businesses are willing to take part. The online classroom will allow their employees to take this training at their leisure, so that they won't have to dismiss everybody from work to get them together in a group for a classroom session. And this is something that's coming this spring. We're starting what we right now are calling a passport program. Harris Jobe Elementary will be our pilot school. And they'll have something, I don't know if we'll get this developed this year for this pilot program, but our idea is that elementary school kids will get something that looks like a real passport. And inside that passport will be a page for each of our attractions that will have a picture and a little description and a place where they can put their stamp. And each of our attractions will have a special stamp to stamp these little passports. And the children will have free admission to our attractions. And of course, somebody's got to bring them, so there will be parents coming along too, we hope. And the whole idea is, it's difficult to change the mindset sometimes of adults. I'm pretty hard-headed, and I think most of you are too when it comes to changing your mind about something. But children are a little bit different. And we hope to build a generation of people who are proud to be from Muskogee. And they're proud of what we have in Muskogee. They're proud to live here. And they want to live in Muskogee and to spread that news to the world. So that's the whole idea behind it, is to build that community pride that sometimes we feel is lacking in getting adults to participate in things and that sort of idea. So that's where that will be going, and we're real excited about that. Then we have our community support program. There's money set aside in our budget to support events in two different kinds of ways. We have hospitality and monetary support, and on the right you'll see some of the, just a few of the events that were supported through the community support program this last year. Now, we've talked about the definition of the contract and the scope of what we do, but now I want to look at the tools that we have in place to measure our performance and to look at our performance based on our budget. This, I know it's very small and you can't see it, but I wanted to put it all up there. This is the ranking of tourism organizations across the state. We started out at number 33 the 1st of November, and we're now way up there at number 6. You see Enid coming in at, I think, 13, and Tulsa, Visit Tulsa's down, 24. Midwest City and Edmond are way down there. And it's a fact of the world now that social media and digital advertising is the way to go. And we're keeping up with the best of them. Bartlesville is our next victim. We are 900 likes behind, so it may take us a couple of months, but we'll be overtaking them soon as well. And then we use analytics. We use Google Analytics and all sorts of tools that are available to us to show our progress from month to month. And this is a trend line that shows our commuter calendar visits over the last fiscal year. And you can see that it's doubled from just under 50 to just over 100. So we're making progress with that community calendar, and we're really focusing our efforts on that. All of our advertising and promotion mentions our community calendar and, of course, our website to get to the community calendar. We have a visitor tracking system in place. If you notice the two green numbers down at the bottom, those are year-to-date numbers from the 1st of July through the end of January, and we're about, looks like maybe 80,000 or so ahead of where we were this time last year. Our attractions logged, I can't see that bottom number, but it was basically 1.54 million visitors last year during the fiscal year 13-14. And then, of course, we submit a budget to you each year. We're working on our budget right now, and we'll be submitting that to Mr. Brown very soon, and he'll be bringing it for your approval. Now let's talk about our performance based on the budget. The best way I know to look at performance is to just very simply figure what the return was on your investment. So in case there might be somebody here, and that was me just a very few years ago, who didn't know what that meant. Just to use a very simple example, if you invest $1,000 at the start of the year, and at the end of the year, you have $8,480, your return on investment was $7.48 per dollar that you invested, or 748%. Now, I'm serious with this question. How many people on the council and in the room here would consider a return on an investment that was 748% to be a good return? Would you think you had done pretty good? I'm serious. I want to see hands. Mayor Bob thinks it's a good idea. Holly thinks it's a good idea. It'd be crazy if you weren't satisfied with a return of 748%. So now we got to figure out how we can take the formula that we used in this example and apply it to our tourism program. So we know how much money we invested. You invested $690,000 in our budget. So that's your beginning. But now how do we figure out how much visitors spent in Muskogee? Well, first of all, we utilize the information that our attractions provide to us on that visitor tracking report. And the attractions tell us that they logged 1.54 million visitors last fiscal year. Then we're going to apply the most current industry data that's available. And we're using this report right here that I've put a little picture in, the Economic Impact Report. And this is a report that is compiled by the U.S. Travel Association, especially for the Oklahoma Tourism and Recreation Department. So they have filtered all this information as it applies to Oklahoma in this report. And you can find this on the OTRD website. And the information that we'll use is on page 12, if you'd like to reference that. This report tells us that an average trip expenditure by U.S. travelers in Oklahoma, no, we're not comparing apples to oranges. We're not talking about what New York travelers spend and trying to apply it to Muskogee. We're talking about what tourists in Oklahoma spend. The U.S. Travel Association tells us that travelers spent $197 per day per party. They also tell us that there are 2.9 visitors on average per party. So if we do that math and take the $197 per day and divide it by the 2.9 visitors, we get $68 a day that an average traveler will spend. So now, if we take that, it's down at the bottom of your page, you can't really see it here, but if we take that $68 per day and multiply it times the 1.54 million visitors, that's $104.72 million that was spent. $104.72 million.
You're waiting for our response.
Came
right?
to Muskogee. Okay. Now, so here's how we're going to calculate what your return on investment was. We're going to use that same example, the same example formula. You invested $690,000 in our budget. At the end of the fiscal year, we calculated just a minute ago, using the very best data that we can get our hands on, that $104.72 million should have come to Muskogee from the number of visitors that we logged. So that means your return on investment was not $7.48. It was $15.12. It was 1,512%. Huh. Now, if I remember correctly, I think, although I didn't get many of you to raise your hands, I think I can. That's a great return, guys. If you got 6% return on an investment, that's okay. If you got a 10% return on an investment, that's a pretty good solid return. But if you get 1,512% return on your investment, that's great. And let's give ourselves a hand, Chamber. We did an excellent job. And we continue to do an excellent job. So, but you know what? That sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? And I don't know what your mother told you, but my mama told me, if something sounds too good to be true, then you should question it. Don't just be gullible and swallow it. So did we really have 1.54 million visitors? Our attractions keep logs. And that's the only numbers we have, are the numbers that our attractions provide for us. There may have been visitors in town who ate and spent the night on their way. Maybe they weren't business travelers. Maybe they were actually leisure travelers on their way to St. Louis or whatever. We don't have them logged on any of our attractions because they didn't have time to see anything that we had here. Or maybe they hadn't had the opportunity to look at one of our visitors guides or be engaged with one of our new touchscreen tourist assistance portals that will be here very soon. But that's the best numbers that we have. So then we might ask a question, well, what if a single person visits more than one attraction? Doesn't that mean they're counted twice? Yes, it does. But we just looked at how some people come through as visitors and are never counted. And then we have events like, for instance, the chili cook-off. I would challenge any of you, anybody, to count the number of people that actually attend events like that. So we figure that it's probably a pretty close wash. And we use the very best figures that we have. If we can come up with a better system, we would certainly like to know about it so that we can use it, because we don't want to manufacture numbers. But this is the best that we can come up with right now. And now, do they really spend $68 a day in Muskogee? Well, according to the U.S. Travel Association, who prepared the report for the Oklahoma Travel Department, yes, they do. They spend $68 a day on average. Those are the very best figures we can get our hands on to figure what your return on investment was. So, just for argument's sake, let's say that the skeptics are right. Let's say that our visitor tracking numbers are inflated by 50%. Now, that's crazy. They may be inflated by 10% or maybe even 25 or 30, but I doubt very seriously that the numbers are inflated by 50%. But even if they are, guess what your return on investment was? 748%. That's still an investment return that you won't find many different places. And if you do find them, please send me a text or an email or something so that I can invest my money where you are. Now, all of that stuff is, that's based on numbers that we get from somebody else. So let's look at hard dollars for a minute. In fiscal year 13-14, we collected, or the city collected, $836,231.41 in hotel motel tax. You gave us $690,000. So there's $146,231.41 that's left over for the city to decide where else to put it. Maybe at Hatbox, or maybe the Batfish, or wherever. We're making you money. We are making you money to spend in other ways. tourism focused, of course. But now then, what are our hurdles? We need crusaders. We need supporters. We need people who are as enthusiastic or even half as enthusiastic as we are. We need people to be excited about tourism and about what tourism can do and is doing for Muskogee. And then we need connections. And I'll give you an example of the kind of connections we're talking about. Councilman Gully is on our tourism committee, and he brought up something to me about the 100th anniversary of the Girl Scout cookie coming up in 2017. And he connected me with a gentleman who's interested in planning something big for Muskogee. I didn't know that that was the 100th anniversary of the Girl Scout cookie. They knew at Three Rivers, and they were, because I've talked to them about it since, and they were, already planning to do something and whatnot. But those are the kind of connections we need. We need help to put us with the right people who have energy, who have resources, who have interest, who have enthusiasm to help us get things done. Those are the hurdles that we have to get over. And then, what if we had a larger budget? Well, just to give you a little breath of fresh air, for right now, we have an adequate budget. We're performing well with the budget that you've given us. So for right now, we're not asking for more money. We're asking for other kinds of support. We're asking for crusaders, and we're asking for connections. We're not asking for more money. We're conservative with the money that we have. We're good stewards of that money. We know that it's public money, and we have a very high level of respect for that. We are excellent stewards of that money. And we provide a service that you're not going to find anywhere else. I guarantee you there would be a huge hole in Muskogee if the Chamber was not the organization administering the tourism contract. There would be a gaping hole because we work hard and long to be sure that that contract is fulfilled to the very best of our ability. So at somewhere between 748% and 1,510 or 12% return, we do a pretty good job. We do a pretty good job. So based on our performance, if we did have more money, the sky would be the limit. If we can turn every dollar that you give us into $15, we might be worth investing in as time goes on, investing more in. And that's it. And I thank you. Are there any questions?
Can we question or comment?
You bet.
I have two thoughts.
Uh-huh.
You need to share this report with somebody at the state level if you haven't already.
Okay.
To say, look what we're doing, and
Okay.
we're doing it really well.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, the connection of the dots between the money spent at Hatbox and the development of additional facilities and upgrading existing facilities and tying that to the connection of tourism sure makes that a pretty good thing to look at and go, the return on investment here, if we can generate that tourism. And I think I would be surprised if the sports facility management couldn't offer some comment on the $68 a day per person, when you bring people in for tournaments and that kind of thing, to validate that number for you, because I'll bet that's even a conservative number.
It may be a conservative number. It certainly may be. And, there's that $146,000 there. That'd be if you guys put that into Hatbox and maybe streamline. We've had a meeting with Neil from Hatbox. Right. And, he was duplicating all of our efforts. He was trying to create his own visitor guide. Those are the kind of connections we need. And I'm still not sure that we actually got our message across to him. He hasn't even answered my emails. So I'm not sure how that performance, I don't know. I may not have answered your question, but
No, we just have to be sure those two pieces are connected as we move
yes,
forward.
and if you know how we
Depending
can
on
do
the-
that better, but we've had that meeting.
Right.
We've offered our services
That's a start.
in every way that we know how.
Okay. Are there thoughts or comments?
The Community Pride program that you all do, is that open to the general public or just to employers?
I'm sure that we would, we would be happy to put anybody through it, but it's a customer service based training.
The reason I ask is because with so much emphasis being placed on community pride, and since you all are already doing a type of training, I think it would benefit just the general public if they had
Yeah.
access to it, because some spark may ignite in the community to make them feel like, wow, I didn't know
Yeah,
that we
what
had
we-
so much to offer as a city.
What we might do, we might be able to have, say, 2 different classrooms set up. One for customer service training that had that element along with the community pride, and then another one that didn't go into the customer service thing. That's a great idea.
Start building that into that passport idea with young people. So
Yes.
years down the road. that
That's
begins to
exactly
show
what
us.
that's what the program is designed to do.
It's too hard to teach these old people like me.
Since sales tax is slightly up, our sales tax revenue, is there any way you can make a direct correlation to what you all are doing and sales tax revenue actually being up?
Yeah, wouldn't we though?
Wait a minute, the whole city council wants to take credit for that.
If you didn't hear what Treasurer said, she said we'd love to take credit for that. But I don't know of any way. I really don't. Without manipulating figures, and that's why I wanted to stick with the USTA's formula, because that it's a hard thing to separate.
It's an interesting connection, though, isn't it?
I think one of the neatest things that I heard was the passport. I mean, there's some things that you cannot change, and
That's right.
It's ingrained in the culture, and but that's one way of really changing the culture in Muskogee, and I think it's starting at the right
And
in the right location in the schools, and really ingraining a new culture of taking pride in our community. And I think it's outside of the box, and it's really neat, and I'm excited about the future of Muskogee.
we are too, and we're very excited about that program, and we want to make it so that each grade has something special. First graders do this, second graders do this, third graders do this, so that when you're in the first grade and you have sisters or friends or whoever's in the third grade and they got to do something special, they got whatever. We want it to be like, I can't wait till I'm in the third grade so that I get to have that or do that. We created a program, my previous employer, Cowboys Community Action in Stigler, we had a program like this through our community agencies that got together for 5th graders. And we had a big assembly where we created this character. His name was Wattage Weasel, and he stole electricity. And the focus that year was on energy conservation and on living right, and about decreasing your carbon footprint and all those things. Those kids were crazy about that. And we got calls after that went on. It was for months that people would call, well, my kid's in the 4th grade and they want to know if you're doing that again next year. And it was just a huge thing. And I think that program can have a big impact on the next generation in Muskogee.
Great report.
Anything
Thank
else?
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Anita.
No action needed on that, is that correct, Roy?
Correct.
Okay. Item number 13.
Receive presentation on best community communication methods completed by the faculty from Northeastern State University College of Liberal Arts, and take any necessary action.
I don't know that this program needs much introduction. Go ahead and come up, because I'm the one signed up to present on it. But a couple of years ago, we began to have a conversation with NSU and with Kimbra, and trying to make that connection about how do we connect with, how do we advertise, how do we market to the vast demographic that we are as a community. And so NSU and Dr. Copeland and more decided to take that project on and say, here's how we feel like you could best market to our community. So with that simple introduction, we'll turn it over to you all.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, that's right. And if you have pictures of the baby, you can show those to us.
Oh,
We had a baby, all three of us, not the three of us. No, my wife and I had a baby that came 3 weeks early, so it's kind of a surprise. So if I fall asleep, I apologize. It's not the meeting. It's just I'm tired as a parent. Pam and I know each other,
Yes,
so
we
she
do.
knows. All right, so I want to talk quickly through some of the demographics of the survey that we conducted, and then we will talk about some of the implications from our findings. We had 441 total responses from citizens in Muskogee that took our survey. About 320 of those took the survey online, and then the rest of those we actually had hand copies where they filled them out. Here are some of the demographic information for you to sort of look at. How it varies by sex, how it varies by age. The largest participation was from those that were over age 35, and then you see there that education really varied a whole lot with respondents. Family income also varied a whole lot. You see the largest group there was the over 50,000 and then the 40 to 49,000. And we do want to be very clear that a survey that's taken online, it always comes with skewed results because you leave out a segment of your population that may not have access to a computer to take the survey, which was why it was really important for us to go out and collect other data outside of the internet survey that we had. And then household number, those were the most popular, 2 and 3. So the research questions that sort of guided this study, what types of media sources are utilized to receive information about City of Muskogee events, and to what extent are these media sources effective? So the method that we used chi-square test. Basically what we did is we took the demographic variables that I just went through, and then we compared that with different usage here. So we compared demographic information with how respondents use TV news, TV paid ads, magazines, radio, newspaper, Facebook, and Twitter. So here are some of our results. What we found is that TV news, older groups rely on the news from TV more than younger groups, and that would be the ages 46 to 65 rely on that more than any other groups. Then we also found that those with a bachelor's degree rely on TV news to find out information about the City of Muskogee than other groups. We found that there was no significance with paid TV ads. We found that in regards to magazines, those over 50,000 income find information from the city more than other groups. In relation to radio, we found that it was significant based on income, with the higher income relying more on radio than lower income. We also found that 2 was really significant for a household. So if there was a number 2, they relied on radio more than other groups. We also found that age was a factor, and those over 45 listened to the radio for their information more than those from younger age groups. In regards to newspapers, we found significance on factors such as age and income, with an increased age relying more on newspapers to retrieve information from the city than those that are younger. And so I put some of the ages on there, really significant with the 46 to 65 age group, and some with the 36 to 45. In regards to Facebook, we found significance on sex and age, with females relying more on Facebook to retrieve information about city events than males. And again, with age, that it's skewed more towards a younger demographic, 26 to 45, are more likely to retrieve information about the city from Facebook.
Did you find that piece of information interesting up to 45?
Well, I think it's probably based on just the age brackets that we were using. I think what is not surprising to us is it's very trendy with what Facebook tells us to,
Right.
is that it's skewed more towards women than it is with men, and that younger people tend to use Facebook more than an older demographic. And then we also found that higher income relies more on Facebook too, which again is sort of trendy with Facebook. And then households of 2 or more are more likely to retrieve information from Facebook. We found no significance with Twitter. We actually found significance in like the opposite way, that people are not retrieving information about the city through Twitter. And then in relation to billboards, we found that higher income participants note that they rely on billboards more than any other of the income brackets that were surveyed, and that females pay more attention to information on the billboards than males. And then we found, sort of with age, the mid-range reported more reliance on retrieving some information about the city than those that were older or younger. Education was also a factor with billboards. Those with degrees noted that they retrieved information more so than other groups. And I know I'm going through a lot of these bar charts kind of quickly, but it does show those different groups. And if you have time, I would encourage you to go back through those charts. It sort of shows you a clearer breakdown on that. We also conducted some qualitative focus groups. We had 5 focus groups. They lasted 45 minutes each. We had various residents that were a part of these focus groups. And I don't have it here, but 3 of the groups were really active in the community. So we had 3 focus groups with really active community members. Then we did have 1 focus group with a nonprofit group that was composed of low-income residents in the city. And then we had another focus group with church members. It's really important when you conduct a focus group to find group members that are alike. So that's why we sort of broke them down in those ways. So we asked them to sort of describe the experience based on some of the results that we had from the quantitative portion of our study. So we asked them the question, how did they find out information about the city? A lot of them would talk about how in Muskogee there wasn't like a one-stop shop to try to retrieve information about the city, but you had to go to several different websites, several different Facebook pages in order to find out information about the city. And I think, these quotations are pretty reflective of all of the groups, how they talked about, I accidentally heard about it somewhere, or my friend told me to go to this Facebook page. So that was sort of something that was said time and time again, that there wasn't one specific spot for it. And then also there was some discussion about how one entity might have 3 or 4 or 5 different Facebook pages, and that was kind of a frustration about which Facebook page do I go for that entity, because there were so many. So we heard that several times too. And then we heard this idea over and over about just there's not one website that sort of talks about Muskogee and the entirety of where to go to find out information about the city. So the last quotation there sort of compares the city of Muskogee to Dallas's website, where they have this one-stop shop. This is the website you go to find out what's going on in the city of Dallas, and they don't have that here in Muskogee. When we asked them about events and how they know about events, they often would talk about what we found in our findings. We heard everything from the Muskogee Phoenix to Facebook to hearing about it from the radio. So being involved in the chamber or getting a chamber email was something that came out that we didn't find from the survey that we actually did, but that was also discussed a lot. Then we asked them how events had changed over a year, and we got a really lot of positive feedback about events and how they've changed over years, how there's this positive vibe in the city, and that if they can, it's important to continue that for the city and the variety. So this is sort of my last slide. The last thing that we sort of found is that citizens also found like the city is sort of stuck. And I think you can find it from those 3 quotations there, that there's a lot of potential within the city, but as far as like moving forward, it feels like the city is sort of stuck in time. So I'm going to move over and let Dana speak a little bit about branding efforts.
The next?
Yeah.
Okay. So we did a card sort. We took 10 of the most recognized logos, if you will, in Muskogee and had the focus group sort them. And then we said, push your first number 1 that you think recognizes Muskogee the most forward. And so this was the number 1 in all 5 focus groups. And number 2 was a close second. So, yeah, it was from... I didn't realize it was going to do that. And then second place was the newest brand for you all, which is the Real Okie. And it followed very closely with this Azalea Festival. So we kind of dug a little deeper and said, why? Why did that brand resonate with you? Why did that logo? And it really brought them back to that
the Okie piece, of course, the state of Oklahoma, but especially the guitars, and that they are located all around the city, and they feel like maybe that significance is being lost. And so then what do the guitars mean if we move on with branding in a different way? Okay. Are we?
Yeah.
Now we've lost some of your
Well, yeah, where? Well, why are we missing slides?
Here, I can bring up your. I have it in my email. Sorry, technical difficulties.
Okay, yeah. Actually, I think I have it right here. Okay, so we went through the branding piece. So the other piece that I don't have up here but is included in the PowerPoint that I have is the Muskogee taglines. We also asked participants to just kind of give us, if you had to put Muskogee in a tagline, say a short snippet about your city, what would it be? And so the one that was number one was Okie from Muskogee, certainly popular from the famous song. And then the second one was Real Okie from Muskogee. And then after that, they were very distant in what someone might say. And then finally, we asked them, if you could give me 5 top words of how you would describe your town. So they were asked to list those, not to discuss them out loud necessarily, and then they passed those in. And so we just compiled those in an Excel spreadsheet and then did a word sort and combined similar words. So those top 3 were boring, quiet, and small. So I think certainly those could be turned around to positive words, but that's kind of where our findings were.
We're going to talk about the first one.
Where?
About the branding. They're on the recommendations.
Well, I
Central
think
branding.
I think certainly there's this idea that we have this must go see Muskogee that's out there. We've got the Azalea Festival that certainly was the number one event that people repeatedly spoke about in the focus group. So that was probably, I would say, in our research, the number one event. And so there's that piece, there's this Real Okie piece, and then there's this Real Okie the Okie from Muskogee piece, along with the guitars. And so I think trying to bring that together to a centralized branding that both the city supports and the chamber supports, and then having brand ambassadors, which I love the training program that the tourism is doing. So maybe that could include some brand ambassador training as you all move forward.
The next one was our target audience. Facebook works really well in Muskogee, and I would suggest that you continue that and continue with every entity, whether it's Park and Recs or the Chamber, Tourism, City. Keep those. Where's the rest of those slides? Okay. We're missing some more slides. So upon this, upon the Facebook, one of our recommendations is that you link the sites together. So if you have a City of Muskogee site, then there should be a link to Chamber of Commerce, Tourism, Parks and Recreation, the Batfish, Hatbox Field. I don't know if it has its own Facebook. We didn't look at that, but link those together where if I log on, I maybe want to take a vacation in Muskogee, I'm going to hit City Muskogee, then I can read what's on the city page and then maybe go on, well, the Chamber will send me or the Tourism Council will send me some information. I'll click on that. Yeah, the newspaper worked really well. People talked about the Phoenix all the time, and they would look in like maybe what's going on or what's happening kind of corner, and the Chamber, I think, does some ads in there that would list this is what we're doing for the week, and they talked about that, and that was very popular. And people would look at newspapers throughout the course of the day. Maybe they didn't get them home delivered, but they might look online, or they'd maybe be at another place, and there would be a newspaper lying around, and they would look at that to find out what was going on. I had enough. There was a couple more. Anyway, last recommendation is you, as the city, need to hire a social media person and who coordinates all your social media efforts by linking all these sites together, working on Facebook, getting Twitter up, getting other social media sites up, and coordinating with the other entities in town. Because I grew up in Muskogee, I don't think it's boring or small. and I would take the effort to look at what's going on, and I think a lot of people out there would too. And as far as limits, the survey response was down. We tried to get into the public school system and have teachers take it. That never happened. And then the focus group bias. There were too many highly educated, high-income people who took it. So it kind of skewed that.
Was there enough data from those that were not in that demographic that you could still extrapolate some ideas from that could move forward with? But about about how do we connect an under-resourced person?
Yeah, I think that goes to that piece of like targeting your information. You know, if you know that there's a specific group that you're trying to target for an event in the city, taking some of the information like if you know it's females, then maybe you should rely more on Facebook to get information out about that event. Or if you know that it's going to be important for a high-income bracket, like maybe it's a fundraising type event, maybe you market it towards the Phoenix and let them handle the disbursement of that information. Because according to our study, we know that higher income are going to pay more attention to the newspaper than they might Facebook or some of these other media sources.
Okay.
How would you suggest we reach out to those underrepresented groups? Because if the data is going to always be skewed based on those higher income brackets, then how do you suggest we reach out to those individuals where that doesn't apply?
Well, if it's during a school year, you could always send things home with students. They really talked about free events like Symphony in the Park and things at park areas that were maybe free. They'd like to bring their kids out. A lot of people at lower incomes would bring their children out to an event that didn't cost a lot of money.
I think I'd like to say too, I think utilizing the water bill or the electric bill in town, and in also asking, like in Tahlequah, all of our local banks will do bank slips, right? So often maybe low-income families aren't necessarily, maybe they don't bank as often as some other socioeconomic groups, but certainly that's an easy and inexpensive way, and everybody has an electric bill or a phone bill, and so working with your public utilities to make that happen is certainly a way to get that list of events out. I think, and we have this problem, I think, in every city, is there's a lot of Facebook pages and there's a lot of activities and there's a lot of information. And so we would never recommend that you minimize people's Facebook pages because you can't control that. So instead of trying to control it, we would encourage that all of those entities that has their social media person, they've got to work together to support one another to promote those activities. And really, that Facebook is right now the #1 way for free communication.
Information, right.
And used widely from the high school and elementary school levels all the way up to a 65. Facebook's fastest growing demographic right now is 50-plus women. So,
if you take under-resourced individuals, can you still look at that and say,
is there significance?
From a Facebook standpoint,
do we have enough data to do that, Chris?
I don't know that we have enough data, but from our focus groups, we found that low-income residents rely on the Phoenix. They all talked about using the newspaper. Even though they weren't collecting it at home, they had places where they would go and read the paper to find out information about
Or they buy it on the rack, or they
was
borrow it.
Was that a piece of information that surprised you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
It did to them because they're a lot younger than I am, and I'm a print guru, and I was not surprised at all. Print is still alive.
It really just justified it for her.
Yeah.
Did you do a little dance when you got
I
that piece
kind of
of
did a
information?
little happy
Little victory
dance, yeah,
dance.
little print dance, yeah. Another thing we do in Tahlequah, because we have our students do a lot of events, any kind of marquee or those signs in a business where you pop the letters in, those are always good, and they're pretty visual, and people can see that free event at Spalding Park this Saturday. Bring the kids, you know.
And we did an audit. We had our students go out one year and they audited every business and what could you do to help promote events in Tahlequah. And so that's where the bank slips came out, that's where the marquees came out, that's where the signage came out. And so anytime our students are helping to support an event, we utilize as many of those as we possibly can.
And churches are great too.
Do you have any thoughts on utility bill inserts in terms of their readership or effectiveness or whatever?
If you just keep it on one side of the sheet, keep it small.
And simple, not too much information. dates, times, locations, cost.
Okay. Those are very inexpensive
Very.
relative. We have about 14,500 utility contracts or bills, and they go out in 3 different cycles and stuff, but it's a very inexpensive way.
The problem we found with the utility bills is the information has got to be more timely than it typically is when we're organizing events. But when you know things like the Red Fern Festival, the Azalea Festival are coming up a year in advance, but we have so many pop-up events that with those utilities, they've got to be done almost a month before and really almost 2 months before the event because of the timeliness of delivery.
One other question that I have. One of the things that got me kind of going on this was a young man that said he used to live in Austin, Texas. And he said, if you lived in Austin, Texas, you went to austin360.com and got everything. And it's kind of interesting because when you started out, you kind of said, you need a one-stop shop source.
Yeah, and even if there's not the one-stop shop website, I would encourage, like, whatever the chamber or the city, like, you all should be linking to each other so that residents can find the one-stop shop. If they wanted to go to the city's website, it would take them to those other entities. I think that's certainly something that came across a lot in the focus groups, is that there feels like a disconnect between all of the different entities in the city.
But would you agree that the one-stop shops do work better?
I mean, that's what people were
Yeah.
certainly advocating.
That's what they wanted.
That's what the focus groups were wanting, was can we not just have a MuskogeeEvents.com or all things, whatever that URL needs to be. I guess the question then becomes, who manages that, right? Because we've all seen enough stagnant web pages and Facebook pages, and so that really is almost one full-time job to gather events from around the city, make sure that they're legit, that just the updating of the information really is critical to those being successful.
Thank you very much. Are there other
Thank
questions
you.
or comments?
I got a question. Question on utility bills and banks. You said that the banks have been very helpful.
They're called buck slips.
Buck slips.
Buck
Okay,
slips.
Okay.
And you have to print them and give them to them, and they'll give you a count, and they'll give you a size indication. You know, when you get back, if you cash a check and they send it back in the little envelope, that's where they put the buck slip.
Is it a charge for it?
No, it's free. It's free in Tahlequah.
But
It's
these are
really
these
just
are.
developing that relationship with those banks.
I see. Say that again.
Developing those relationships
And they're
with
free.
the banks.
They're free in Tahlequah.
Free in
Yeah.
Tahlequah.
All right.
You wanted that on the camera, I guess, didn't you?
Anything
Any
else?
other thoughts or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Much. I know this was a long project to get here. In fact, it even, with the baby and everything, and last week and some snow and all that. But I genuinely want to say thank you, and thank you for Kimbra helping us make that connection as well. Does that conclude our agenda?
It does.
All right. We will adjourn this meeting.
I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee meeting for March 3rd, 2015. As we start off, we will yield the floor to our mayor to recognize our Employee of the Month.
I'm going to recognize Ron Bladen. And Ron, if you'd meet us down in the front, we will give you a moment of honor.
I'm on vacation. I came off vacation. Good to see you guys.
The drawing's actually at the end. Where's everybody going? The employee for the month of March for the city of Muskogee is Ron Bladen. Ron serves as a city environmental technician and began working for the city in 1992. Ron earned his bachelor's degree in science from NSU in 1992. Dr. Copeland, did you hear that from NSU? Ron is responsible for implementing the city's industrial pretreatment program, Tier 2 reporting requirements, the wastewater transportation and disposal system, and many, many other things. Ron has many certifications and is co-founder of the Oklahoma Pretreatment Cities Association. And Ron, thank you for being a great employee of the city of Muskogee. Thank you, sir. We get to hear from you up here occasionally, but I'm going to let you get everybody a handshake, and then we'll give you an award. Wait a minute, we've got to give you an award. Yeah, that's right. And did you have something you wanted to say as well? And I'll put this away.
I appreciate the opportunities the city has given me to help improve things in the city of Muskogee. Through the city council ordinances, we're able to improve the environment, the way people live, the safety of the Muskogee citizens. And so it's through the city ordinances. I do enforcement on industries, on commercial businesses, and on contractors to make sure they go by city codes. And this helps everybody in the city out. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're ready for item number 1.
Consider approval of Finance Committee minutes of February 17, 2015.
After review of the minutes, are there any corrections?
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
That item passes. Item number 2, please.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments from 2/14/2015 through 2/26/2015.
Do we have a report from the purchasing committee?
Yes, sir. The purchasing committee met earlier today and reviewed the report of claims, and I move for approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 3, please.
Consider approval of the Muskogee Fire Department request to submit a grant to FEMA Fire Prevention and Safety Grant for a smart fire education and safety training trailer that will be used to teach citizens of all ages or take other necessary action.
We'll recognize Chief Tatum, and I guess you should stay up here for the rest of the meeting.
I will. Chairman, committee, I want to come to the council and ask permission to go to the fire prevention and safety grant for a smart fire education training trailer. This trailer will be used for both public access to help train in safe fire prevention and safety. We applied for this grant last year and wasn't fortunate enough to receive it, so I want to go for it again this year.
All right. Any questions?
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
There'll be a matching portion to this grant.
Yes, it's based on population. It's about 10%.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 4.
Consider approval to accept a grant from the Oklahoma Office of Homeland Security for 2 laptop computers to replace update existing computers at a value of $4,084 or take other necessary action.
Chief Tatum.
Again, Chairman Committee, we have received this grant from Oklahoma Homeland Security for 2 laptop computers at the value of $4,084, and I'd like to move for acceptance.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Tucker, when we accept these grants, did they have to ask to be applied for?
Yes, but didn't this one come through?
This
Already?
one, don't quote me on this, but I believe all the Seaburn trailers in the state received this same grant.
Okay. The reason I asked that was because I was wondering if we already gave them permission to ask, do we need to come back and also give permission to receive, or can they just receive and give a report?
It's been our practice to bring it back to the council, generally because there is a required grant acceptance agreement, which
Okay.
may contain additional terms that the council would need to know about before signing off on acceptance of the grant.
Okay.
Some additional terms and conditions.
Okay.
Any further questions? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston. Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
All right, final item number 5, please.
Consider approval of the lowest and best bid for self-contained breathing apparatus from Casco Industries, Oklahoma City for $398,790, or take other necessary action.
Chief Tatum.
Committee, a little history. About a year and a half ago, I had made the statement that we would try to piggyback this off of the Tulsa bid. The Tulsa bid finally come final, and the way they proposed their bid, we just could not afford it. So at the beginning of this year, we went out for bids ourselves for self-contained breathing apparatuses. Our current breathing apparatuses are mid-90s. They're very old. There's several NFPA standards behind. We did go out for bid. We received 3 companies' bids with 6 different proposals. In breaking these proposals down, we have selected Casco as the lowest and best bid. NAFCO, which was the dragger, we had to disqualify because they are not NFPA compliant. They were hoping they would be by the time we met here, but in conversations with the people today, they may be a year out. But not considering that, Casco was the lowest and the best bid, which is for the G1 SCBA. Also in this bid of $398,790, I've got $4,923 for contingencies. Reason being, we are moving from low pressure to high pressure systems. I've been going this direction for about 6 years now. Many years ago, when we bought our current Cascade system, we bought a high pressure system. When we purchased our 2 new ladder trucks a couple years ago, we had air storage bottles that were high pressure capable. We are moving all of our air supplied devices, our lift bags, our air hammers, our confined space air supply systems have all got to be transferred over. And we think we have thought of everything, but I'm sure we didn't. So that's the reason for this contingency. This is a very good unit. We've wrestled with it and looked at it, turned it inside out, and I'm very confident this will serve us for many years to come. Can I answer any questions?
What would be the warranty on these systems?
For this unit, it is 15 years.
15.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
All right, thanks,
Yes.
Chief. And that's
Thank you.
no further business. The Finance Committee meeting is adjourned.
And I'll now call to order the Public Works Committee meeting for March 3rd. Item number 1.
Consider approval of Public Works Committee minutes of February 17, 2015.
Any additions or changes?
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 2.
Consider approval of an ordinance amending the City of Muskogee Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 38, Environment, Article 4, Smoking and Use of Tobacco in Public Places, Section 38-98, Definitions, adding tobacco products, Section 38-99, Possession of lighted tobacco in certain places, prohibited, exceptions, designating all city property as tobacco-free, providing for repealer, severability, and setting an effective date, or take other necessary action.
Councilor Langston, I see your name on this one.
Yes, I'm going to ask Delby Walker to come up and explain a little bit. She is the one that explained this earlier, and we needed to make some amendments, and she can tell you a little bit more about why and how.
So we were just recently awarded, you guys knew that in October, we did the ordinance, and then we submitted for incentive grant on November the 1st. We were awarded $50,000. We just found out about a week ago. We are one of 21 communities that received that funding. One of the requirements is that we have the tobacco-free ordinance, and so that is in place, but the language that was submitted needed to be strengthened to meet the State Department of Health standards and TSET standards in order for us to kind of be in line with what they would have for us to be. So City Attorney Roy Tucker put together the ordinance, so it's exactly in line with their requirements.
And if I may interject, what will be recommended for approval, if that is the will of the council, will be the ordinance that was passed out at the beginning of the meeting. The ordinance that we had at the time of the posting the agenda, we received notification that there were still some deficiencies. So those have been corrected. Essentially, those deficiencies were that there was a posting requirement requiring signage to be posted at the entrance to public facilities, notifying those entering that smoking is prohibited, as well as the use of prohibition against the use of vapor products, as well as all tobacco products, which would include smokeless tobacco. The original ordinance that was amended that we thought covered everything only related to making everything non-smoking. The original the original effective date, which was set as of January 1st, 2016, remains the date for this new amendment.
What's the date again?
January 1st, 2016.
Okay, I have a question. Now, if there's like, I was told to ask this, so don't be mean to me. The at parades and events like that, does this pertain to that also?
Streets are not included.
So it's a public reason why I was asking, because it was a public event and people were complaining during the Christmas parade that people were smoking next to them and they couldn't enjoy it, so they left. That's one of the issues that came up, and they asked me to say something about that, see if that was on this amendment, that if there was a public gathering, could you amend, could we fix it so that you can't allow smoking at those events?
I'm going to say no based on what the state law says, because it is very specific as to what authority we have to regulate smoking. Now, our authority to regulate vaping is not within state law. That is a requirement that we are inserting under our authority to declare and abate public nuisances.
So we're self-imposing that requirement.
Yes. Okay. Delby, would you have any other comments on that?
No. Yeah, he's right. For as far as the streets and the events, it would completely be a different ordinance.
Okay. It's a good question.
Any other questions or comments?
Do we need a motion on this item? Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. One last time, any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
The motion carries. Item number 3.
Consider approval of a preliminary and final plat for Moore Estates consisting of one lot on 1.05 acres located on East Mary Fifth Road on southwest corner of Smith Ferry Road and Gulick Street, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin, floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the applicant, Robert and Megan Zachary, is requesting approval of a preliminary and final plat of Moore Estates, consisting of one lot on 1.05 acres. The property is located on the southwest corner of Smith Ferry Road and Gulick Street. The reason for platting the property is so it can be developed residentially. They are proposing a new single-family dwelling on the property. No improvements are required for this plat. By improvements, I'm referring to extending water lines, sewer lines, or streets. It's been reviewed and recommended for approval by the Subdivision Review Committee and Planning Commission. Be glad to answer any questions.
Is this consistent with other requests that have been made to set up similar?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
The motion carries. Item number 4.
Consider an amended resolution declaring the necessity for restricting on-street parking as necessary for the health and safety of citizens of Muskogee by reducing the volume of on-street parking in the areas near and surrounding the VA call center and directing appropriate signs placed thereon or take any necessary action.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes, this item has been approved by our street committee to move forward to the PublicWorks committee for consideration for approval. If you'll remember, we did restrict this parking around the VA call center back in December of 2013, and at that time we did place some no parking signs, and we did leave some of the areas open for on-street parking or curbside parking. And at that time we did discuss, if it continued to be a problem, that we would bring it back to council to address. At that point in 2013, we actually did pass a resolution that authorized the city manager to instruct staff to place those no parking signs. As stated, we have gotten some complaints, and that's what the need for bringing it back to you is. We are now requesting that, and what you're seeing before you is East Side Boulevard, and this is between East Okmulgee and East Broadway, and this is where we have the on-street parking that's put in at a 33-degree angle that backs onto the collector or arterial street. We have nowhere in Muskogee where we allow this type parking to back into a 4-lane. We also have an issue, and I don't know, I thought I had a picture of it. It's in your packet. That actually shows cars that extend out into the bike lane. So we're asking that this parking on East Side Boulevard actually be disallowed so that we place no parking anytime signs there. We're also looking at the area on North G Street between Okmulgee and Callahan. On the west side of G Street, starting at Okmulgee to Broadway, we would like to place 2-hour parking signs on the west side of the street. And as you can tell on the bottom of the screen, down toward this area, well, it died on me. Anyway, right there by that doctor's office, we want to start right there, just north of it, and go from that point right there. We want to go north up to Broadway Street and place 2-hour parking. We did go out and notify the public that this meeting would be held today, that if anybody had any opposition to it, we'd requested them to come. We'd like to place that 2-hour parking, restrict that. From G Street, from Broadway on over to Callahan, it jumps over to the east side of the street. We also would like to restrict that to 2-hour parking, and that is from Broadway to Callahan. So briefly again, from Okmulgee to Broadway, it's the west side that we're talking about. That would be 2-hour limited. And then from Broadway to Callahan, it jumps to the east side, and it would be 2-hour limited. Do have a resident here, Rick Sally, that owns 3 of those houses, and he's very much in favor of this. I don't think he really wants to speak, but he's in favor of restricting this parking down to 2 hours. That's basically what we have. We would recommend approving this, allowing the resolution to instruct the manager to instruct staff to change this parking to 2 hours.
Now, what is going to be accomplished by restricting it to 2 hours?
Right now, they're parking there all day long, and it's more of an 8-hour status. It keeps people from being able to get in and out of their property safely. It does not allow for them to have people come to visit to park on street. So the residents are actually not being able to utilize the parking in front of their house. It's being taken by VA employees.
Can a residence have can a residence not have a driveway and not have parking? Is that legal? Even if it's grandfather?
Yes, and we tell them they cannot park on the grass, so their only option is to park in the street.
I'm just
to
wondering,
be on a hard surface if
are
they
we
don't
going
have
to
a
create
driveway.
a problem for a residence here by implementing this?
Mayor, we went and looked, and most of those that don't have the drives in front have them in the rear.
Oh, okay.
That's a good question, because are we now going to be restricting the residents?
Yeah, you may fix one problem and create another.
And actually, currently, they can't park out there anyway because there's a car there all day long. So this will actually improve it for the residents.
But if they could, they'd only have 2 hours to park in front of their own home.
Correct.
So was this not originally no parking anytime on the west side also? I think I was under the impression that's what we
No,
were
no,
doing.
no.
one side.
We actually restricted it on the east side for no parking anytime. Because if you'll remember, back in December, when we put this in place of 2013, they were parking on both sides of the street.
Yes.
And you couldn't get down the street at all but one direction. And if 2 cars were coming at the same time in opposing directions, it would gridlock the street. So that's why we chose to restrict it totally on the east side. And then there's an ordinance that says that it's only 4-hour parking in front of your resident. We hoped that would have policed itself, but it didn't. So that was what brought forth the need to come with the 2-hour parking.
Following up with what Reverend Coleman was saying about the residential areas, when we looked at this in December, the enforcement was supposed to be that a person could park there if they have permission from the homeowner.
Correct.
Will we have any way of making sure enforcement is the 2 hours? How are we going to monitor that to make sure that
Well, it will be 2-hour enforcement, and they would just have to go by and either chalk the tire or whatever method they're using to enforce the 2-hour parking in other areas of the town.
would that be a VA responsibility or the city's
That
guy?
would be the city's responsibility.
That'd probably take one officer full-time, wouldn't it?
Not full-time, but he would have to go by on a very regular basis. And I'm sure that they don't go every day. They would just go periodically.
Don't they go there to collect the money out of the collection box anyway?
I think so.
I think.
They do.
And again, I do have a resident that owns 3 of these houses over there that is very much in favor of the 2-hour parking.
I would support it. I just want to know with a little more certainty that none of those other residents are going to be impacted by having a 2-hour restriction.
Counselor, we did invite them to come if they were in opposition.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion?
Mike, yeah, I just got one. Isn't this where we have the parking lot that they use, that's a paid parking lot that is made on that area for them?
That was the purpose of the parking lot, yes, sir.
So
And
there
it's-
is,
And it's
so,
within a block of, it's within a block of there.
so we do have parking available to these cars if they so choose to use it.
More than adequate parking and very convenient within a block's walk.
Okay.
Any other questions? I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully?
Yes.
Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Marlon Coleman?
No.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Leanne Langston?
Yes.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes.
The motion carries. Item number 5.
Consider approval of change order number 2 to construction contract with Cook Construction and Crane Service Incorporated for the East Side Sewer Interceptor Project or take other necessary action.
Mr. Stewart.
Yeah, this item also has been before the street committee and approved to move forward to you for your for your consideration. This is change order number 2 on the East Side Sewer Interceptor Project. And what this change order is, it's to replace the west side of David Lane from Dayton to Chandler in a very short portion on both sides of it to full concrete. The original contract was only to replace the concrete street on the east side where the actual project itself was going. What happened was that sewer line that we're replacing is a 30-inch line, and it's approximately 30 feet deep, which means that there was a tremendous dig that had to happen, weather-related, taking into consideration that the west side of David Lane wasn't in the greatest of shape. With the construction that went on, it just did a huge amount of destruction to the west side that we're now asking for a change order on. The change order price was determined by the line items that were bid on the original project, so they're definitely in line with the project costs. It's $250,000 change order that we're asking for. Again, that's $120,250. It's for 925 lineal feet of the west half of David Lane, and that's to put it back with 6 inches of concrete on a 6-inch ag base. So when the project is completed, David Lane from Chandler all the way back to Dayton will be both sides new concrete. Where Elliott Street crosses, and as you can see on the map that I've got, the green area is actually that detention basin project that we're doing. That's going to get replaced also as part of the other project. So all that area in there will be brand new concrete when this project is completed. We did bring this before the street committee because it is replacing the street, replacing it with full depth concrete. Again, $120,000 change order. We did discuss this with Oklahoma Water Resource Board, who attends all of our meetings monthly on project update meetings. They were definitely in favor of this. They went to the site, they visited, they approved it. This will add to the contract price by $120,000, so it will extend the price out. There is money in the OWRB loan contingencies, so the money is there, and staff and engineering recommends approval along with the street committee. And Jay Updike is here if there's any more specific questions that you'd like answered.
How's this going to affect the curbs and the driveways and stuff like that in the people's sprinkler systems and all that kind of stuff?
Well, sprinkler systems, if they disturb them, we'll try to put those back. Driveways will be replaced, and Jay, I'm not sure, I think they go back to the property line 5 feet. They're replaced 5 feet back. So all the driveways are getting replaced, and it is new curb and gutter.
So it'll look like a brand new neighborhood.
It'll be a brand new neighborhood. And with the amount of destruction that they've had for the last several months, definitely needed, if you've driven it.
I drove down it. I was, so.
All right, here we go. Again, staff and engineering recommends approval along with the street committee.
I had an opportunity to drive down it 2 months ago, and it was a huge mess.
And just so you know, the pink or the red that shows on your map is the area that's to be replaced. And as you can see at the very end of it, there is a double red. That's where it's being replaced both sides with the change order. The yellow is what was actually part of the contract itself.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 6.
Consider approval of final plans for the Cootie Creek Trail Phase 1 as prepared by the Planning Design Group and authorize staff to solicit competitive bids or take any other necessary action.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Mr. Chairman, council members, the Cootie Creek Trail Project is something we've been working on for some time. It's a grant-funded project, and the funding is coming from a Oklahoma Recreation Trail Fund grant at $160,000. The balance of the project will be funded through the CIP, the 2008 CIP tax funds that were dedicated for trails. We've talked about this project. This project was changed slightly. I wanted to take the opportunity to explain that to you in this map. The map is the Cootie Creek area, the vicinity. The red line is the proposed new trail. On the right-hand side of the map, where the little asterisk will be the trailhead. That's at 2nd Street. We're just a block off of South Main Street there, and at Cootie Creek. The trail will extend westwardly towards and northwestwardly along paralleling Cootie Creek. Originally, it was going to turn at 7th Street, and we were going to take a street linkage up to the Centennial Trail. After we were awarded the grant, when they came to review the project, the state came to review the project, they were really not happy about this long street linkage. We weren't happy about it either because, we want to get the pedestrians off the street as much as possible. One of our trail advocates, Doug Walton, said, he pointed out to me, he said, a lot of people come off of that trail at about 10th Street. And so we started exploring the opportunity for us to do that, and we were able to continue to parallel west on Cootie Creek on the right-of-way where the sewer line is, and we will exit there at where Kalamazoo and that street there called Lincoln. So we'll turn there up to Kalamazoo. We'll follow Kalamazoo off-street. We'll build an additional sidewalk on Kalamazoo off-street to 10th Street. We will cross 10th Street, and then we'll use 10th Street, which is we will repave the trail at that point, but 10th Street is paved. If you use the trails, you know that there's a illegal dump site at the end of 10th Street where it dead ends at the trail. we're going to clean that up with the cleanup campaign at the end of March, if not sooner. But that's where the Cootie Creek section, or where this new trail portion will come off of Centennial Trail. It'll come off at 10th. You'll come down towards the south and then hit Cootie Creek, and then it'll be 10-foot wide asphalt like Centennial Trail is to 2nd Street where the trailhead is. The other exciting part about this project is at the 2nd Street, at the trailhead at 2nd Street, we will build a dog park. We've talked about building a dog park in the park system for many years, and we've identified this as the best location for that, and it'll serve a dual purpose. The parking in the facilities for the trailhead will serve also for the parking facilities for the dog park. There'll be the amenities, park amenities, the drinking fountains, the sitting shade, all those types of additional things for the trail users, the pet owners, and the pets themselves. Any other questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I know you mentioned that part of this will help to resolve some of the illegal dump site that you just mentioned.
Yes.
We have a lot of illegal dumping going on existing trails, and some of them seem to be in need of a lot of repair. If by adding on this trail, are we overwhelming maintenance issues for an already overwhelmed system?
Well, I would say no. I mean, I think it's we need to address our maintenance issues. We have a contract that we've awarded to repair some trail work out at Hatbox Trail, which is where we have most of our need for improvements is out there. We need to continue to pay attention to our trail repair, maintenance, and also the just the annual, the yearly seasonal maintenance with the weed and the trash. And the illegal dumping is something that's it's not a result of the trail. It's just a result of an issue that we have with people wanting to dispose of their trash for free. And I think our effort to clean up the town is a good start to try to bring it to the attention that somebody's paying attention and caring for those spots. So
March 25th, 6th, 7th, and 8th will be that emphasis on cleaning up those dump sites as well as all over town.
Does that project have a name, Mayor?
Muskogee 500 Azalea Cleanup.
Just kind of wondered.
Yes, it does.
Mark.
It's in your utility insert this month.
Mark.
Yes, sir.
The resident on 7th Street that we've been by visited, is this trail still going to be affecting her yard? And if so, are we going to plan to address it?
No, not at all. When the lady that lives on 7th Street, at one point we were going to cut right there onto 7th Street in front of her home, but now it will stay maybe 100 feet away from her house. There'll be the same vegetation that's there now will remain there, and so she probably won't see it. The trail users probably won't see her in the summertime. Wintertime's a little different. What I was going to also expand on, Councilman Coleman, is with regard to the trash or the cleanup. When we do these projects, generally more attention because there's users there. So any of the trash dumping or drug problems or people that kids that go down there to park or whatever, that tends to go away. So we think that we're going to improve the neighborhood as a whole and make it for it's going to really be a nice addition to the trail, and it's a nice setting. If you'll be surprised when you go down there, this particular location for the dog park and the trail.
Mark, with this new trail, have we looked at putting in those phone boxes along the trail any more?
No, it's expensive. I don't really know how used they are. People, are mobile. They're moving. Most people on the trail, if they're worried about, they have their cell phone. Most everybody carries a cell phone if they're concerned about that. We encourage. I recommend people, not go out there at nighttime, and if you're nervous about it, you should go in with friends. Take your buddies. So.
You want to go walk with me, Wayne?
Take your cell phone, Dan.
Mr. Hall.
Thank you.
Sorry. That's hard. Thanks, man. Exciting project. Any other questions?
We ready for a motion?
Yes, sir.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Thank you, Mark. Any other discussion or questions? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
No.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 7.
Consider approval of amendment to Council Policy 4-1, travel policy, or take any other necessary action.
Ms. Epperson.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. If you may recall, several weeks ago I had brought a amended travel policy towards for you to look at. It was in regards to different benefits to offer for several employees. The manager and I have decided at this time to move forward on a different travel policy and take out all those additional benefits. The travel policy change that you have in front of you today only removes the portal-to-portal city limit restriction that we currently have within the policy. We have 13 to 15 employees at the current time that live outside of the city limits that take their city vehicles home. That is a violation of our current policy. We want to have a policy that we can all follow and that can be considered consistent within the city. So we would like to recommend approval of this amended policy that would only allow for city employees to take that vehicle outside of the city limits. There were a couple other administrative changes that were made just to some wording, and then the forms at the end of the policy were changed as well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Kelly, I would like to see the possibility of us putting this either to a study group that we had talked about today at a communications lunch, or that we send it back to staff for further information and review. But in that, I would recommend that we allow the people who have vehicles or who have been committed to a vehicle verbally through the negotiation process, that all continue in place until this review is completed and all the information is in hand to make a proper decision.
Mayor, I also have that that emergency one.
Yeah, that's why I said what I said at the end.
Okay.
Anybody that we've made a verbal commitment to, that we honor that verbal commitment.
I think we need to add to that. You alluded to forming a committee. I think we need to form that and proceed from there.
Okay.
Can we do that and be legal?
We're actually right now in violation of our policy.
So what would be our liability if we just said, can we verbally say that, in other words, without having a liability if something were to happen?
Well, let's
There's
let
no
Roy
liability.
get involved there. Roy?
There's no liability
Okay.
at all. This was just established as an additional benefit for some employees for the convenience within the city limits to be able to quickly come back to their place of work for issues such as repairing water lines and whatnot. And through the years, that has been extended to some department heads who do live outside of the city limits. That was actually in place well before the current policy was adopted. And through whatever discussions occurred between city management and the particular directors who were affected, none of us know. And so in finding that discrepancy, we determined the need to make the correction to the policy to bring it in line with what the practice has actually been.
Anything else, Mark?
Do you need that in form of a motion that we would?
Do we table this, or?
Well, I would.
Or just take no action?
I can't tell you how to do it, but I would just say that, what the mayor just said, we need to look at this, evaluate this. But we do have employees that there is a need that is mission critical and that is warranted. And so whatever decision we make, we'll have to come back and really get this policy put together.
I prefer to have a policy in place. It shows our employees that we are committed and we are going to stick to our policies, and we are not going to continue to violate our policies, because in regards to this, they could say, well, you're violating your own policy. Why are you making me follow our smoking policy, or why are you making me follow this other policy? So that's why I think that there is a big importance that needs to be one way or another figure it out as to how we want to handle this. I wasn't familiar with the focus groups or anything, but
So
I'm
this
sure I
could
can be
this
filled
could
on
be
that.
a motion that includes a temporary
It could.
use until
Yes,
the
until the
committee meets and a final decision is made. And so, Roy,
Excuse me.
When you say a temporary
Are you
law,
drafting over there? I think probably a motion to maintain the status quo as to the status of the past practice for the travel policy until such time that a study group can be commissioned and a report made to the committee as to any amendments to travel policy 4-1.
And that would be any commitments made up until this date.
Correct.
I don't think that's
I don't
what
think
Ms.
that
Epperson
I
was-
don't think that I don't think that covers a couple of employees that we would like it to encompass.
I think what
well,
Ms.
he
Epperson.
said to date. He said to date.
But we have, unless you have discussed otherwise.
He's saying to date.
That's why I said to date.
To date.
If we've made a verbal commitment to somebody yesterday or before, then we honor that verbal
But our
commitment.
verbal commitment is still in the negative for some employees.
I don't understand what you're saying.
We are still limiting. There's one employee that has on-call status right now, and we are not allowing him to utilize the city vehicle for take-home purposes.
That's not what I'm saying. I said any commitment we have previously made with the employment of an individual to date. And if we've made a verbal commitment with somebody, then we honor it. And he drives the vehicle home.
I think we're
till
saying
that
the same.
policy's in place.
I think we're saying the same thing, Kelly.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is the person that we're talking
Okay.
about, and it includes that person. So the I'm sorry, there's two that's on call that are part of the 13. Is that correct?
There are two that temporarily use their vehicles.
Yeah. In HR and PublicWorks, right?
Correct.
Okay, so this would be 14.
That would use it on a regular basis. That is correct.
Okay.
who decided who could take it home and who couldn't? Who worked this policy up?
This was, I believe, in 2008. Was this the first version, or if it was amended back in 2008? So that would have been possibly under Greg if it was done in the beginning of the year, and that would have been before my time, before Roy's time as well, probably.
But you've got some of these situations that go all the way back to Walt Beckham's day, which spanned 25 years, and there may or may not be a verbal, may or may not be a commitment in file. So
And
it's
there
going to
are,
take some.
and I'm not aware of any commitment in a file. It's just been allowed verbally through city managers, and that happened in my case as well, where it was just allowed on our system.
And then we have some contractual obligations
Yes.
through union contracts that those aren't changing. We're just
correct.
talking about other issues.
And so we're going to have a meeting and go over this and discuss what allows someone to drive their car outside of the city limits.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, because there's some guys, and like we have a new guy that we hired here that lives outside of our city limits, but I've known that he's come in his short stint here several times to fix things, and I'm like,
Yeah, but he has a vehicle.
Okay.
It will be reinstated today
okay.
with this motion.
Are we going to add forming the committee to this, or setting a timeline on doing that?
I think the timeline should be a 30-day timeline personally, but I usually
Sounds like a
want
plan.
things done quicker than others. But I would think 30 days, and I would direct staff, in my opinion, let staff develop that committee. I'm okay with that, unless we want to word something differently.
I think council should be involved, because I know a lot of us have had a lot of questions about this and everything, and
Perfectly okay with that.
I'd be perfectly happy to serve on that.
So half the committee would be council and half non-council?
I think that might be good.
Can that be part of the crafted motion to say what the direction would be?
Do you have, if you want to, are you looking to formulate the members from the council who sit on the committee tonight?
At least that opportunity if they wanted to serve.
Okay. We can make that.
So it doesn't become an all-staff committee.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Ms. Epperson.
What you're looking
at? How many members are you wanting from the council?
This at half, I don't know.
Okay.
2 or 4. I don't care. I think it would be good to have at least 2 council members.
Okay.
Do you have an opinion about how many people would sit on that?
No, I don't.
Smaller is probably better.
Yeah,
than
I
larger
would say
number.
a smaller group is better. I would just say for staff, it's just going to be HR. Let them flush it out with you guys. It is a council policy. This is something definitely within your will shop. You're definitely authorized to do what you're doing. She'll be there to kind of help guide you, to kind of tell you the details on who's got what and those kinds of things. There's a memorandum also that I've sent out, transmitted earlier today, that you should all have. If you don't, I'll make sure that I get you a copy of it. And then we'll make a decision within 30 days and come back to the city council and brief everyone. So, I'm sorry, Councilman, I know you.
While Mr. Tucker's working, I was going to say to Ms. Epperson and Mr. Brown, a lot of the concerns that we, or some of the councilors may have had previously when this policy came up, those aren't even being addressed this time.
That's
You
correct.
all are basically just asking for the ability to include the employees who weren't able to, and to make ourselves more compliant.
That is correct.
Not more compliant, make ourselves
In
compliant.
compliance, yes.
Okay.
That is correct. Yeah, it removed the benefit portion for the department heads that I spoke of the last time. It removed that benefit completely. It was just changing that restriction of the out-of-town portal-to-portal use.
Well, and I mean, the council, I wasn't involved at the time when this was passed, the council voted to limit the travel to within the city limits, you know. Everybody voted on it, evidently. It passed. It was put in our policies and stuff. And everyone has assumed, citizens, me, you know, we all assumed that that was the way it was occurring, because that's what they said, you know, and that was what we should be doing. So I think we need to clean some things up like that. Just because we let things happen, whether intentional or whatever, that doesn't help us be very transparent with our citizens. If we're going to make changes, and I think what we're doing now is the appropriate way to do it. If we now believe it's in our best interest to let people drive outside of the city limits, if they are using a city vehicle, then let's be upfront and do it here in front of everybody. That's the way I feel about that. So those are things we need to discuss.
Thank you, Lynn. Mr. Tucker, you got us drafted yet?
Yeah.
Still writing.
You still writing?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think maybe a proper motion may be to maintain the status quo as to the permitted use of city vehicles to date until such time that a study group can be formed consisting of staff and at least 2 council members who are charged with studying and making recommendations as to possible modifications of Council Policy 4-1.
Do we want to appoint the 2 council members now in that motion?
Why don't we let them volunteer? Did we say the 30 days in there,
Volunteer.
Roy?
I volunteer with that.
There's 2 volunteers.
Okay, 30 days with a recommendation made.
Okay.
Modification of within 30 days.
And Councilman Reed and Councilman Langston have both agreed to be on that committee.
And whenever you get that written, I so move.
I second it.
Have a motion and a second.
Whatever you say.
Do we need to reread that, Roy, or are we all good on what the motion is?
I'm happy to reread it if you'd
Reread
like.
it. All right,
Maintain the status quo as to the permitted use of city vehicles to date until such time that a study group can be formed consisting of staff and council members Reed and Langston who are charged with studying and making recommendations as to the modification of Council Policy 4-1 within 30 days.
Does everybody understand what the motion is? Any other discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
No.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 8.
Consider approval of Wayne Johnson to serve on the City Facilities Board as council appointee for a term commensurate with his unexpired term of office on the City Council or take other necessary action.
Well, Mr. Johnson, you're nominating yourself according to this.
Yeah, Councilman Gully. We all were going to appoint somebody to the Facilities Board, and I've talked with most of the council. Normally, we want to appoint somebody from our community to serve on this board. This is one I'd like to appoint myself for. This is kind of my baby. And this is one that I think is very important, and I do have a little background on facilities. So I would like to recommend myself for this board. I'd like to be considered for that.
Move for approval.
And I will second that because this man has a lot to do with boards and facilities and everything else, and making it so people can use them and everything else. So I'll definitely second that.
Got a motion second. I guess my question is how many people, this is a 9-person board.
Yep.
And we only have how many on it now?
I don't know that we have any others appointed, do we?
There's been 2.
The mayor did one, and
That's right. I did one. Yeah, you'd be the second, right?
But and I've kind of been stressing it that it's very important because one of the things that we need to put in place pretty quickly. I mean, we in one kind of celebrate, we did open up the bids for the Martin Luther King Center, and the base bid was within budget. But one of the things that we need to, start doing is start talking about how that will be put together. And, the Facilities Board will be doing one of those key elements of putting together how that, the organizational structure will be of renting out that facilities. That will be part of that. And that's going to take some time to draft that, that facility policy there. So that will all be part of that charge of that committee. And now we've got a facilities director. So this facilities team will need to be working really closely with Gene. So it needs to really be formed and start marching forward.
You're thinking that's going to take longer than 30 days?
On
Martin Luther King Community Center operational.
Oh, I would think so. Operational policy, I would think so. Yeah. Because really, and that's where I really think it's really important that we have a lot of community meetings. And that's one thing I am really proud of the initial committee. They had a lot of community meetings and got insight and input. And that's what I think is going to be really important, that this facilities committee has that same input of where it needs to go.
Do we have a scope of what a committee member what their responsibilities will be on? And the reason I'm asking is if I'm going to ask somebody to serve on this committee, the first thing I'm probably going to ask is how often they meet, what are our responsibilities, that sort of stuff. Do we have that listed anywhere?
It's in the ordinance.
We do have that on the ordinance.
It's a monthly, they meet once a month. But in the scope of the duties of each person as well as the powers of the board are within the ordinance.
Is there any way that you could resend that? Because I'm sorry, I've misplaced it or I don't recall it.
Sure.
But I would like to have that so I can answer any questions.
Doesn't everybody need to make an appointment?
Yes.
To that?
That's why I was kind of bringing this up.
Is there anything else out there that we need to make appointments to that we may need to know about?
Yeah, you have upcoming one, Street Improvement Advisory Committee, Airport Board. I think Wayne Johnson is rolling off of it. And we have one that's
They're
coming
all on the
online.
website and
They're all on the
highlighted, the ones that are
Okay,
done.
and
Yeah.
highlighted in yellow if there's
It's
a
on the
vacancy.
website.
Ever seen me with a computer?
But I thought some of those boards, it goes by seniority.
Well, that's one we still got to get a final on, too.
We all don't. I thought we didn't have. Yeah, it was rotations the way some of those boards were set up.
I think Roy was trying to keep people on the board. No, not Roy. You can explain it.
Hey, Vector closed. All right, that's all I can.
I guess.
So yes, you all had directed me to do that. I have not done it yet. With regard to changing all the remaining ordinances to the power of appointment that we did for the other couple of revised ordinance that we did, such as City Facilities Board and the Parks Board. But I will assure you that will be done.
I have a lot of faith in you if we would just take the pressure off of you with the URA. I have a motion and a second to appoint Wayne Johnson to the Facility Board. Any other comments or questions? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall. Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, and I'm assuming Dan's a yes,
Did
too.
he
He
say
just had a
yes?
hard time saying it.
Did he say yes? Pam, I don't think we have anybody.
No, sir, we do not.
Seeing no further business, we are adjourned.
I was thinking about it, Wayne.
So.
You made direct